All right, welcome to the September 28th OpenJ9 community call. We don't have a lightning talk this week. See somebody's changed this. I had Gita lined up for the 12th, and I don't see that in the document anymore, so I seem to have lost that. But in 2 weeks, Gita will be giving a talk on Vector API. Right, so let's take a quick look at the new user-raised issues. There's an issue that came in, a segmentation error running on 64-bit S390. See, okay. This has been sent to the JIT team. Okay. An issue with attach not having been supported, but I see that's assigned. Memory corruption on Jenkins. Some comments there. So it looks like all of these have some comments or conversation happening. Is there anything that needs to be called out today? We'll jump back to the agenda. I won't, given the fact that I was late, I'll skip over the adopt download stats. And let's take a look at the 0.28 release for Java 17. Do we have an update on where we're at?
Yeah, so the numbers that are there are up to date with the 13 pending items. We still have, I think we might even have one more blocker than we had last week, which came from a review of the open issues. One of them should have been a blocker, but it wasn't marked as a blocker. I think we're looking at maybe not shipping Java 17 GA and shipping 17.01 instead, given where we are today. And even, I would say, even 17.01 is in question about when we're going to ship that.
Okay, because let's. There are still, yeah, I guess there's 14 items now when I pull up the list there.
Pete, when would 17.01 be?
We get the OpenJDK code on the 19th. But usually the OpenJDK code doesn't change anything. Like there'd be some security fixes, but it wouldn't cause any new test failures. You know, we typically pick up those security fixes, rerun all the testing, which is good, and then ship 2 days later.
That's the 19th of October?
Correct. So the plan would be to ship Java 8 and Java 11 starting from the 19th, and then Java 17 we'll have to make a call if we're ready at that time to do 17.01, or if we need to keep delaying.
I think it's really important that, as you said, 8 and 11 go out on time.
And they look fine. I don't have any issues. I don't see anything that would stop us from shipping those on time.
What do we need to decide on whether we are shipping 17 GA or not? I hear you making this proposal, or it sounds like you're making this proposal. We're 2 weeks past the GA date.
Well, we had talked about maybe being ready for the 30th, but obviously we're not ready. We're not going to be ready in 2 days. You know, we've only got 3 weeks to the 19th. Seems unlikely we'll even be ready by the 19th, but maybe we will be. But it seems to me that we'll be, even if we are ready, we're going to be ready so close to the 19th that we might as well just put out 17.01 and skip 17.0. I mean,
Are there
we don't have to set anything in stone. We can see how things go in the next 3 weeks, but that's my kind of prediction that we are not going to be ready before the 19th or soon enough before the 19th to make it worthwhile shipping it.
are there things in the 029 plan that that would be considered blockers for 1701 that are not already blockers for 17?
I don't think so. It's been a while since I looked. I think we may have had 2 blockers in this list. I'm not sure if they're still in there or not.
OSX problem with core files.
Right, that one has to be fixed. Although there's kind of 2 problems with OSX. One, there's a fix for already. We're just waiting for it to be merged on the OMR side. And then I think we have problems on older OSs. So we'd have to make a call how much we really care about those older OSs being supported if we don't have a fix in time. Or, I mean, we could always back out the change entirely, in which case we'll just be back to where we were. So I don't it's maybe marked as a blocker, but I mean, we have a solution. We have different solutions that we can do, so it's not going to block anything.
All right, the other blocker is a segmentation error while compiling.
So I don't remember why that got marked as a blocker. Not something I recall seeing in the builds very often.
Is that the one that's only a Valhalla that shows up much more often as a Valhalla problem?
Could be. If so, it's maybe a blocker for Java 18, but not for 029.
Yeah. It's not a blocker for 17.
So yeah, we should get it fixed though. I know it will block progress on Valhalla though, because I think it actually fails during the build itself, the Java C step during the build. So that should get fixed with higher priority than even if it's not a blocker.
Yeah, well, it's marked with the blocker label, but it's not going to block the 029 release.
So we have a high priority label. Priority high. Let's remove the blocker label then if it's not actually blocking the release. And this only occurs with inline types?
I think it's been seen without inline types, but in all our efforts to reproduce it, we've only been able to reproduce it with Valhalla. In fact, it reproduces it quite readily. We do have a bit of a handle on what the problem is. Annabelle's been looking at this, so we may have a fix for it soon. She's just diverted to 17GA work right now.
Okay. I don't see anything else currently tagged as blocker in here, though there are still a number of segmentation faults.
Can you just filter by the blocker label? Go to the top and add it to the. Oh, you're not. Oh, you're searching by.
I'm looking at the milestone, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I guess from the issue view, you can search for the. You can filter on milestone and label. So. If you go to the milestones drop down on the. No, lower.
Milestone.
One below it. There, that one.
So 29.
And then you can add your label, yeah.
Yeah, that leaves us with just the OSX issue. But still an uncomfortable number of seg faults.
Yeah, we do have lots of things in here that we'd like to get resolved, but you'd have to check through some of those seg faults and see how many milestones they've already been moved forward. I don't think everybody's done the work to try and whittle down this milestone plan.
I think that would be a good piece to get done to understand where we're at. But do we have an outlook? When we look at the Java 17 milestone plan, we have the 14 items here. Do we have a sense on how close we are on these? Are they, there's pull requests in process, they're just not reviewed and merged yet, or are we still investigating?
The JIT ones, we have fixes in flight for 2 of them. We have 3, I believe, that we do not have any, we haven't got to the root cause yet. We're still getting to the bottom of it. And then the rest are sort of we have a general idea what the problem is, but we don't really have a fix yet for that. So progress is being made. It's just taking a while.
Okay. So, yeah, what I'm hearing is that 2-week. Well, we're certainly not going to make the 30th. That 2 weeks or 3 weeks we have until 17.1 should go out the door. May or may not be containable for the items that we have open. So I think I'm with Pete on this, that we should scratch the Java 17 release and try and pick that up in the 0.29. Is there any concerns with making that call at this point?
I'm just going to check with a couple of my stakeholders to see if there's any objections to that. But so if you don't mind, I'll defer my answer for a couple of hours.
The thing is, we just probably won't be ready in time, right? So if we're ready after the 19th, it no longer makes sense to ship 17.0 when there's already 17.01 with security fixes. The only reason to ship a 17.0 is if all of a sudden we've got more problems because of 17.01, but it's very rare that would happen.
And I wouldn't even want to do that, because once the security fixes for 17.1 have gone out, it would be unsafe for anyone to be picking up 17 as the thing they want to run in production. So,
well, people may have objections that we're not shipping 17. It's not ready to ship, so not much we can do about it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
just checking, is Toby on the call? Or is Dimitri on the call? Dimitri, do you have any concerns with that plan from a GC perspective?
No, I think it's okay.
Toby, from a VM perspective?
Oh, no objections.
Okay, so Daryl, if you can follow up with your stakeholders.
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with the plan. I think it's more just a socialization, communication thing that has to happen. So I'm okay with the plan.
So it sounds like then that we are going to stop backporting fixes into the 0.28 branch, save the effort there, put them into main, and put them into the 0.29 branch.
Yeah, in that case, I don't think there have been really any fixes backported recently, because we haven't had any fixes recently. But I'll change the nightly builds that we run in the open to test 0.29 instead of 0.28.
I guess this also means we're just retagging everything in 0.28 to 0.29.
maybe we should hold off on that because there's already a lot of stuff in 029. It'll just make it more confusing to, I guess they're all marked block. Most of them are marked blockers, but up to you guys, I guess, what you want to do. Keeping them in 028 for now keeps them separate, so easier to see what we're working against.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, it makes it easier to burn down the 028 plan first.
So just to clarify, so the Java 17 builds only that are run in the open testing nightly have been testing the 028 release branches, not the head stream. And so I'll change them to test 029 release branches, since that's what we're now working towards.
Update the nightly builds.
Nightly builds only for JDK 17. For 8 and 11, the nightly builds still test the head stream, and we run 029 release testing on the weekends. But for 17, because it's got a lot of focus, the nightly builds are testing the release branches.
I think the internal 17 still tests head if that's interesting to anyone.
Yeah, we've also got Jason running some internal release testing on the release branch as well.
I think it's an obvious question, but just to confirm, so we'll skip over 2.8 altogether and go straight to 2.9. We're not going to like rename 2.8 to or 2.9 to 2.8 or anything like that.
No, I think we abandoned 2.8.
Okay, thanks.
All right. So I guess that gives us till October 19th to, hopefully before October 19th, to get this list of items burned down, closed out, so we can hopefully get a 17.1 out the door then.
I guess so one question that I have then is, what is the latest that we should be shooting for in order to meet a GA of October 19th? So when is the last set of change? What is the last date we can get changes into the build so that the right testing gets done to meet an October 19th GA date? Is it like October the 15th?
So typically, we would only want changes until milestone 2. And after that, you could still make changes, but we'd want more justification for putting those changes in.
Okay, so October the 4th?
But given where we are for 17, I think that should apply to Java 8 and Java 11 changes, like generic changes. You have until October 4th, but if it's specific to take down one of these blockers for 17, we're going to go all the way to the 19th.
Just a little worried about the risk that introduces into the 8 and the 11 releases.
So people need to call that out. If we're putting in if we've got a change for 17 and it looks like it's going to risk 8 and 11, call that out. And we'll have to make a call on a fixed by fixed basis.
In that case, is it worth doing like another stream for 17, like 21 or something like that? To prevent that risk? Or is that just going to create more work for double delivery?
We've already got the 028 stream.
Well, or that, yeah.
If we wanted to keep things separate, we could use that stream. It seems to me a lot of the fixes are specific to 17 and don't really risk 8 and 11. Does that sound right?
Not from the JIT side, I would say.
No?
No. One of the problems we've just fixed has been in the code base for 20 years. So probably uncovered by a 17 code change, though. But
So I'm not sure where that leaves us, right? If we can't put changes in because they're going to risk 8 and 11, then maybe we do need to keep working against the 028 branch to ship 17, and we'll do some magic to make 028 pick up 1701 when it's available.
I would be tempted to say let's push this a week because we're not yet at the milestone to date for 029. So if we push this out, let's figure this out on the next community call to see what kind of risk we think we're looking at carrying here before we try and introduce or split another branch, because any changes going into 17 would still at this point be expected to go into the 029 branch. So I don't think we're at the decision point yet, is what I'm trying to say.
To answer one of your questions, Daryl, we don't do a lot of testing on the release branches. The testing runs only on the weekends, traditionally. So all the testing pretty much happens in the headstream. So if we're gonna release a problem and find, release a fix and find a problem with it, typically it's going to happen in the headstream.
Yeah, I just want to, the concern that I have was just making sure there was enough testing runway and testing cycles on the changes that we are making to have confidence I don't just want to drop the code in and then, it happens to go through a test cycle and then we ship it. I'd like there to be a little bit of soak in for some of the changes that we're making, especially since some of them are not trivial. Yeah. So even though you said we can go up to the 19th, what I would want those that are working on JIT fixes in particular to be more focused on is a date much earlier than that, maybe the 12th, so that we do get enough testing cycles in on the changes.
Yeah, so the risk here is going to be to 8 and 11. We'll have to do what we can to keep those releases good. And maybe that means not shipping 1701 at the same time and doing a 029.1 to ship 17 after the fact with some additional changes that we didn't want to put in earlier.
Or splitting the branch at that point, at the milestone 2 date, or at whatever date we decide is the too risky point.
Yeah, basic. If we did a 029.1, that would be a separate branch that we could have different content in.
I think determine on the next one of these calls when, if, how to handle splitting 17. Anything else we need to discuss around the release?
Is there a chance for an M3 build for 17? Or is that not necessary?
Well, if we have any fixes in the next week, they'll get picked up in the M2 for 029. So when we do M2, we'll include 17. And then we can make a call after that. There's not going to be much time between M2 and the actual release for 8 and 11. If 17 is going to be delayed, we can talk about an M3.
So the M2 for October for 17, if we include 17, we better make sure that we're going to do 17 off of 2.9 and not 2.8.
Right.
Or else that would be a difference between M2 and GA.
Yeah, so as of now, we're dropping 2.8.
Okay.
M2 for 0.29. We start next Monday, and we'll just include 17 when we do that.
Okay.
All right. Yes, I realize we're at time, so we'll just run through the other sections, and if there's anything that has to be called out or discussed today, please do that. Shelley, anything for adopt?
Oh, no, nothing really. We're nearly done the JDK 17 release, just AIX left. So we'll be turning our focus to the marketplace work that needs to happen.
Oh, that's great. Thanks for all the work that you guys have, or your team has been doing to get that release complete and out the door. Adam, for infrastructure, anything that needs to be called out?
Nothing too important. No. We did add 5 of the Arch machines, but 2 are disabled.
Okay. Anything that has to be called out for CMake?
Nope, nothing there.
Marius for JIT server?
Nothing important. Thank you.
Toby for snapshot restore?
Nothing to report today.
Anima, anything that has to be covered today?
Can you hear me, Dan?
Yes.
Okay. For downcode, there seems there are a bunch of changes coming from OpenJDK 17, which affects our changes in terms of the downcode interfaces. So I got to double check all our changes to see what I can do with that. And other than that, for the upcode, we have a discussion with Jet about the pending issues, and I'm pretty much close to end with the code in encoding the native signature, but there's probably still have an issue in the box out there I need to double check. That's everything from my side.
And I think we can continue to push the monitoring strategy discussion given where we are with the 17 release.
Okay.
Is there any other conversations we need to have before the end of this call? All right, then. Thanks, everybody, and apologies again for being late.
Thanks, Dan.
Chat again next week, I guess.
Thanks.
Thanks.